This is Kelly Hill, Executive Editor of RCR Wireless News, and welcome to RCRTech Talks. I am so happy to have today Jeremy Pease, who is CEO of Hivelocity. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you, Kelly. Happy to be here and appreciate the time.
Great. Well, tell us a little bit about Hivelocity and what you folks do.
Yeah, so we are what we consider a infrastructure provider for companies of every size, SMB all the way through to enterprise. And we do that through a number of ways that can support different parts of the infrastructure and different ways of deploying infrastructure that customers would use based on what's the size of their IT team? Do they have a development staff? Do they need a company like ours to handle a portion of that? So we have solutions ranging from bare metal servers where they can automatically deploy them, spin them up, click up OSs, applications, all their development team can access all of that directly through the website, and they don't have to talk to a soul, but we're here to support them if they need, all the way to cloud infrastructure where we monitor, patch, manage all of the pieces of the infrastructure for the customer so that they can just deploy their app and run it there. So we have over 60 data centers across 6 continents to be able to provide that connectivity and that the cloud capability for our customers across the globe while running that all across a backbone of internet providers and internet connectivity. Because as I always say, if we had those servers in a data center and we didn't have internet connectivity, we might as well be the next Best Buy or CompUSA.
All right. Okay, so what is the most popular thing that people are asking for these days? What are the services that your customers are, taking advantage of? How do they want to deploy right now?
Yeah, a lot of them really are either deploying for production environments or AI environments or a little bit of both. And really what we see a huge uptick in is different type of server compute. And that is really our bare metal platform where their developers can just get in there, spin up what they need. They can put containers on it. They have object-based storage to back it up. They can back it up. They can have DR pieces for their production environment. And they want all sorts of ranges of compute and storage and all these components, right? But they want to be able to really tailor it to their needs and be able to maximize what they're running their application on, because we've changed from an industry where when I came up in the industry 25 years ago, you deployed the infrastructure and then you just figured out what application was going to work on top of that. And that was really the way it went. But now data drives everything. And so these companies know exactly what type of infrastructure they need. Is it a CPU? Is it a GPU? Do I need this much RAM? Do I need this much storage? And so our customers right now really are dictating that. And the bare metal platform allows them to select exactly what they want, connect it all together. We have automation through the networking so that they can connect servers across the data center, automatically pull that all together and support their needs. So that's really what the customers want, is they want the flexibility and capability of automation to pull everything together and allow them to build the infrastructure they need to support their applications.
Okay. So what does that mean for how you think about architecting and deploying infrastructure, locating things, building? I don't know if you're, building entirely new data centers. Are you leasing space? How are you thinking about the actual, architecture and deployment of the infrastructure?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's something that we talk about a lot, is what's the best way to do that? I mean, we're in a business, so where's my best margins? How do I make the most sense of this? How do I deploy the capital that I have available to make sure that I'm getting the most and providing the customers the best options and solutions? So there's so many pieces to that. But the key things that I think about are, how do we own as much of the infrastructure as it makes sense for us to do at the end of the day in terms of data centers like you're talking about? And for us, that's usually a smaller deployment than some of these bigger, massive data centers. Now they're deploying things we never thought were possible 10 years ago, 100 megawatt, 300 megawatt data centers. We really only need about 2 to 5 megawatts to really do what we do within a facility. So we're able to look at some of these smaller facilities, smaller footprints, less capital outlay, but allows us to own the data center top to bottom. And again, that, now once we deploy servers and infrastructure within there, that's just a bigger margin for us than taking somebody else's co-location space. And obviously, as we look across the globe, we're not going to do this everywhere. When you're talking 60 data centers, to deploy all that and do that in every zone doesn't make sense. But for our key core markets that we call them, we absolutely want to be able to own and operate as much of that infrastructure as possible. But then when we talk about our edge locations, right, to deploy for customers to be able to get to certain places and locations, and we think about, even just network connectivity across those, Those are more, we're going to do that in somebody else's facility. That's the best way to do it. It's efficient for us, and we can grow and scale as we need into those facilities.
Okay. So obviously the buzzword of the moment is AI. You've mentioned it a little bit, a couple of times, but I want to dig into that a little bit more in terms of what are you seeing? What does that mean for workloads? What does that mean for compute resources? How is sort of that drive to AI affecting Hivelocity at this point in time?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's been an interesting couple of years to say the least, and see the impact on the data center industry, on the bare metal industry, the cloud industry, like all of the ways it has impacted has been, it's game changing, I think is the best way to say it, because 5 to 10 years ago, 30 to 40 megawatts, maybe 50 megawatts to 100 megawatts, that was a massive facility that you just didn't think about. And when you did, you thought it was going to be this massive amount of square footage because everything was in a 5 kilowatt rack. Maybe you got to 10 kilowatts, and even 10 kilowatts, you're like, man, that's a heavy workload within a single rack of servers. And now they're, deploying 100 to 200 kilowatts per rack. I mean, when you think about 10x, almost, 20x what we all thought is traditional, I mean, that's a significant game changer. It's a lot less footprint and it's a lot more power, right? And so for us, when we look at the AI infrastructure, it really breaks down into two different things. There is the training models, right, where they're training in their building, and that is the most heavy of all compute. I mean, they're having to run major language models, and they're doing that at very high density in these specialized data centers that really can handle that type of capacity. Talking liquid cooling, liquid either to the chip or to the server door, or these fully submerged racks. So that's completely different. That's not where we're going to play in the long run, because it doesn't make sense for our model. Where it does make sense for our model is the other part of that, which is inferencing AI. And inferencing AI is where users like you and I actually go and utilize the AI. It means something to us. It has an impact at the end of the day. It's done all of its training and it's done all of its learning. Now it's actually like usable AI at the end of the day. So where we get into that is more of a high-end CPU, a low-end GPU, and it's more about distributing that at a massive scale to what I referred to earlier, the edge locations, right? And so how do we get this out where we're all from home, working from the internet and doing all of that? You got to be able to access that. You got to be able to use it. And everybody wants it at low latency. You referred to latency, right? That's a big thing. That's why our internet backbone is so critical, and our geography dispersion is critical, so that as these companies are looking to get that AI out to the end users, we're providing infrastructure that's necessary, a lot less compute than those training models. But those training models didn't need that distributed network. They weren't across multiple locations. It's all done in one really massive location. Now you got to distribute it out for all the end users to be able to utilize. That's where we come in. We're able to help those companies distribute it to a massive network on more affordable, less compute type models. And that's where we're really working with AI companies to figure out how to make that available across the globe.
So given that sort of landscape and that context, can you tell us a little bit about sort of your goals and strategies as a CEO navigating, not just what's happening right now, but what you see coming down the pike over the next few years?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, there's two different parts to this. What are the products and technologies we need to be able to have to enable the next step of AI and all of those needs? And where is the compute and an infrastructure on that inference side going to go? And if it does start to scale up because the needs and the processing goes, how do we make sure that we're able to do that and have that capability? So how does that change our, data center strategy in terms of where we're going to go acquire? What are the products and initiatives that are necessary to do that? We have one-click applications where a customer can get on our servers and one-click either Open Web AI or Llama 3.8, right? And so how do we not only allow our customers to automatically do that, as we talked about, a lot of them want to self-serve, they just want to be able to do that. How do we continue to build our environments to be able to help them? And then in all honesty, the other part of that I don't think a lot of people talk about, we always talk products, how do we get to the end customer? How do we maximize all of that? It's how do we make sure on our end, we understand all the data analytics? Because when you're talking about so many facilities, so many types of products, so many different disbursements of capital expense, you want to think about how are we looking at that data and how are we analyzing it to make sure we're making the most of that? And so we're investing right now in data warehousing business intelligence in a way that we haven't before to ensure that as we spend, we're getting that return, but we're also trying to stay ahead of what is coming next, starting to see new trends as they start to develop rather than waiting until it's already happened. So I think those are really the two ways that I think about it as end product to customer, but also our evaluation and analytics on the back end to make sure we're ready for what's next.
Okay, so then I'm going to sort of piggyback off of that. And I'm going to assume that there's probably some AI at work in what you're looking at internally. So tell me a little bit about so we talked about how Hivelocity is looking at, serving AI needs. Let's talk about how you folks are actually using AI in your own business.
Yeah, absolutely, Kelly. And it's such an interesting time because we actually are running a contest right now within the organization asking employees, how are you using AI? How is it making your life better at work? And what are the efficiencies that you're gaining with that tool? And so that's even us just trying to understand. We have some compliance guidelines because that's important, right? Like we got to make sure they're not just using any tool and they're throwing any type of data out on the web in terms of these are all cloud based. So it's up there somewhere. And so we're talking to them about how they utilize that, how they use that within our compliance regulations to make their job better. So we do that. But I mean, even as an executive team, we're using it in very different ways to optimize our side of what we do on a daily basis. But we also look at it, I mean, our marketing teams, it's changed the way that you look at SEO. I mean, you go and you say, well, before Google was everything. Like, let's go pay Google their AdWords and do all of that. And it's not that we're not going to continue to do that because people are going to continue to do that. But now people are searching through chat functions, right? And so as we think about that and we go, all right, how do we get ours to come up on things like Chat GPT? How do we get them to come up on the Llama models? How do we get our company, when somebody is searching bare metal providers or any of that, how do we do that? Because that's a whole new world to explore. So, we think about it. We are really big on customer service, which I think is something I haven't mentioned throughout this. So we're somewhat tentative in going in and like having that first layer be, an AI bot because we want to provide a very real experience for our customers. But obviously that's somewhere we're going to have to go. And there's efficiencies that can be gained in that. So for us, it's looking at those types of things and saying, how do we still create a great customer experience where they don't feel that difference, but we also gain the efficiencies of that. So there's a number of ways that AI is being used within our business, both now as well as, what are we looking at going forward for it as well?
Okay. So tell me about how you personally are using AI, either, for the business or, just in your own life. What value does AI bring for you?
Yeah, so there's three ways that I really use it myself, and I'm going to be really boring because I'm such a nerd in terms of being type A OCD about my scheduling, my organization, and all of those things. And so, the first thing I really used it on is being able to organize my email. It'll go through, it'll organize, it'll take to folders, it'll tell you what you need to read, and it'll already start to draft certain emails for you as well. So there's some really cool tools out there that you can use. I mean, literally saving me hours each week by doing that because I get such a massive inflow. And there's rules you could build into Outlook before, but now, I mean, it really is thinking about it in a very different way. So that's one way that I use it. Another is that type A planner in me is not super creative. Like as an executive, I can think about great products and great things. But when it comes to creating PowerPoint presentations, either for a board meeting or for a customer meeting, that is not me. I could create a great page of wall that's going to tell you all the things I need to say. But there's some really cool tools out there now that you take that wall of text that you used to put out there and it creates all the imaging for you. So that's a really cool thing that helps someone like me that thought, man, I'm never going to be a PowerPoint person that can create these great PowerPoints. And now all of a sudden, all I got to do is put that text I used to put. And now all of a sudden I look great at what I'm doing. So that's another way. And finally, it's travel planning. Like in my personal life, my wife and I love to travel. And so using that for some of that travel planning, what are the best places? How do I make sure I get the best airfare? There's definitely different ways that I use it to make sure that I'm optimizing my travel and learning things that probably would have taken a lot more time on Google to actually search and figure out.
Okay. Wonderful. Well, Jeremy, thank you so much for the time today. Really appreciate the insights and the expertise, and best of luck in navigating this new AI world.
Thank you so much, Kelly. It was a pleasure.